Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and very happy to be here today. So Elana Freeland is an author, and she's written several books. And basically, Elana, in light of the delays we've had, I'd rather you just talk about your background for me, and please focus on your, maybe if you have the title to the newest book, that'd be great, and also, your most recent book.
Oh, thanks, Carrie. You do such wonderful work. I really appreciate all your interviews. I know how much hard work it must be.
Thank you.
Okay, so going back to how I got involved in geoengineering, which is the hat I mainly wear now. I have two books on that. The first was in 2014, put out by Feral House, called Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. Then that book led me to a whole new set of questions, and I attracted some help from some people who had hands-on experience with HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project up in Alaska, ionospheric heater. And then I went into another book, and that book came out in 2018, and that's called Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And it was the space fence lockdown that was the key. And I really spent the entire book explaining how the space fence works for the doctrine of full spectrum dominance over planet Earth. And that was 2 years to write each of those books, actually, even though they're 4 years apart. And that was Feral House as well. Now, this third book, yes, it was born out of what I did in the Under an Ionized Sky, as I began to realize the role of synthetic biology, which is one of the primary operations, believe it or not, of geoengineering. Most people think geoengineering is just about weather, and a lot of people have bought the cover story of global warming, climate change, and they now and then see a geoengineer named David Keith trotted out. He's completely bankrolled by Bill Gates, and they think, yeah, this is about the weather. But really, geoengineering is about a lot more than the weather, though the weather plays very significantly in keeping the sky ionized. And for people who don't know what that might mean, ionized simply means that the sky has been turned into a vast antenna, and it's kept that way with a variety of technologies. One being the ionospheric heaters, another one, the particle accelerators like CERN, another one, electric weather operations that are chemically and electromagnetically man-made or anthropogenic, as they say. So all of that led me to this third book, and I do have a title, Carrie, which took a while. I'm looking at 3 titles I went through, but I like this last one the best. And that is Geoengineered Transhumanism, How the Environment Has Been Weaponized by Chemicals, Electromagnetics, and Nanoparticles for Synthetic Biology. And I know I'm famous for long titles, but when you're dealing with a topic that's national security and people don't see it all the time on the TVs that they still insist upon watching or on their iPhones, I also don't own an iPhone, they tend to just sort of, it's just how it is. I mean, our attention is jerked this way and that every day now by just amazing dramas that are going on. So the geoengineering is often forgotten, which is why I have to spell it out in the title of, hey, this is a huge thing. This is not just weather. We're breathing stuff in, and have been for 20 years. Geoengineering did not start in 2017, the way we were led to believe when President Trump came into office and David Keith was trotted out to say, oh, gee, we're going to have to try this geoengineering because things have gotten that bad. No. It's been going on for over 20 years. And I document all that in the other two books. So now we're deep. We need to put our hip boots on because we're deep in synthetic biology, and that's really huge. I mean, I can't believe I was writing this book, and I was getting to the point where I had pretty much completed spelling out how the environment has been weaponized for synthetic biology, when boom, here comes COVID-19. And so when I saw the footage in Wuhan, the early footage months ago, I immediately knew what was happening. It wasn't that I needed to put things together or have a medical degree or anything, because that particular situation, and I'm not talking about all the other situations, but that particular situation had everything to do with the fact that Wuhan had been wired to the max for 5G just weeks before the beginning events that led to the rest of the world being caught up in all of this drama that is going on now. So to me, I think the valuable thing I bring to the table is that I can prove that the environment has been turned into an open lab. And who's doing that? Well, that would certainly include Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation, all that. But it's primarily what I like to call, to just grab everybody and pull them in, the military-industrial intelligence complex. This includes, and certainly is foremost in my mind while I'm writing, would be Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, all the other accomplices that are known as military contractor corporations. They are definitely primary, and it is unfortunately their finger which is on the button of the geoengineering that produces all the way from extreme weather events, and that all has to do with disaster capitalists that Naomi Klein named years ago now, and yet it's also about experimenting with synthetic biology for the sake of a transhumanist species. And certainly the COVID-19, I don't want to go into that and explain it, but it is definitely involved to a degree in this formatting of a transhumanist species. So that's basically where I've come. I mean, I haven't even told you that before I became Miss Geoengineering, about 10 years ago. Before that, I had spent years looking into MK Ultra. I'm good friends with Ron Patton. Ron Patton was the one who wrote an essay that got lots of attention about monarch programming years ago. I've been involved in digging under the rug and down at least a few feet into the Freemason crypts of America that reveal and expose how the deep state came to be and who the deep state players are. I've always been sort of scrounging around in what now not everybody, but a lot of people are beginning to understand is really the truth about the United States of America, about the CIA in 1947 coming into being, what a bad idea that has proven to be. It was a very bad idea, how the Cold War was not really at all what we were all told it was. One thing after another. You've covered a lot of very interesting people in your interviews who probably know more than I, though I sometimes think I probably know more about MK Ultra than just about anyone I've ever heard. So all of that is my backlog for coming into this area that, I had a biology undergrad degree, but I've never been a physicist by any means. So the plus I bring to the table is that I have a very open mind, and I'm incredibly studious and disciplined. And so I've dug deep in order to spell out to the layman the danger of the geoengineering going on, because it's so quiet. It's still national security. You're not gonna hear a peep from any of the main players, other than whatever the politically correct thing about global warming and climate change is supposed to lead you to think. So this is a problem, and I'm bringing it to the table along with some other very important things. But the irony is, if I read you the list of 7 operations that geoengineering is part of, you will see that just about every major problem we're having that people are dedicating themselves to, activists are very involved in, there are lawsuits going on, you'll see that it all has to do with geoengineering. And that's the irony of this situation, is the quietest elephant in the living room is geoengineering, and it's engaged in all of everything I can think of that is coming to the fore.
Okay, now what I want to ask you is whether or not you are wrapping into your analysis, especially since you've got this new book coming, what the vaccine will contain, what the test does contain, and how that also has, in a certain sense, it's like geoengineering, it's terraforming the earth, re-terraforming the earth for another species. And I think that's the end game, for one thing. And then also the idea of upgrading this human genome in a certain ways into what Mark Richards calls passive super soldiers. So I don't know, I know you're not a biologist, so I don't know if you go down those roads, but the vaccine is going to be front and center. Of course, the testing now they're really trying to sell that. That's also part of that package. But there's no doubt the frequencies, I call it a frequency war. So there's a definite frequency war going on, and that has a lot to do with what we're seeing. Then the weather wars gets pushed into that, because the fires are a result of that. So maybe you can talk, because I know you must have, your analysis of the fires. I'm in California. I forget where you're located.
I'm in Olympia, Washington State.
Okay. Well, Oregon has had their fires. So, this is part of the terraforming as well, as hurricanes and tornadoes, and basically trying to reclaim the earth away from humans, get people away from the coast. I don't know if you listen to Deborah Tavares. She talks about these things all the time. Anyway, continue along these lines.
Okay, I don't exactly agree with a few things you just said, but let me just first give you my scaffolding system so that you understand where I'm coming from. So there are, you can still see me, can't you, Carrie?
Oh, definitely. I don't know what you're looking at, but you are the main act. When you're talking, you're on front and center on the screen.
Okay, because I pulled up something from my desktop. Okay, so there are 7 geoengineering operations in service to the secret space program. And my way of looking at the secret space program is through the lens of a Soviet astronomer named Nikolai Kardashev. And Nikolai Kardashev, several years ago, put forward 3 phases of technological achievement that any civilization aspiring to a true space age would have to accomplish. And the very first one of the 3 is full spectrum dominance of one's planet. And that's what we're undergoing now. They are through geoengineering primarily, and I would say with tangential, in tandem research into the transhumanist possibilities for the planet, we are now undergoing the first stage. The second stage is control over one star. So that would be control over the sun. And during this this solar minimal that we've been in, they have done a great deal of experimental work with the sun. And that is underway, the second phase, at the same time that they're completing, and they are completing the first phase. This is the last phase, is the control over human society and the human biological. So then the third is control over one's galaxy and its systems. And at that point, people probably think, wow, this is really hubris. This is unbelievable. But that is the overarching umbrella of all the geoengineering I know that is going on. So there are 7 operations under that secret space program that Catherine Austin Fitts has talked about many, many times. The first one is weather engineering, like you were saying, and that certainly is essential. And we're seeing a lot of it. We've seen a lot of all the way from hurricanes, tornadoes, storms, droughts, floods, you name it. That is all, to my knowledge, there is no natural weather today. It is all engineered. And
Agree 100% on that.
Yeah, and that has to do with full spectrum dominance, right? I mean, that's the way it is. Full spectrum dominance doesn't mean half spectrum dominance. So then the second operation that geoengineering is running is the chemical and electromagnetic. And those two really do go together, because everything electromagnetic has some chemical part to it, as you know, through looking at the system of metals, all the way from the I can't remember the names of them from the periodic table, but they all have to do with a chemical reaction. And now that nanotechnology has been discovered, it was discovered quite late, actually, though I think the military had its paws into it before 1990. Now it has become an entire industry, and it's everywhere. So the weather engineering is done with chemicals and electromagnetics, and include nanoparticles in that, absolutely. They are now able to make their own Birkeland currents. They can make their own Alvin waves. They can make a rotating electrical fields in the sky. They can make toroidal forms. A lot of people attribute these amazing sights in the sky, including UFOs and et cetera, to off-planet beings. I myself do not really need yet to go off-planet. I can find plenty of evidence to show that all of this is going on right here. Now, whether or not a person who looks like a human is a human, I don't really go into that, because I'm still making my way in that direction to decide what it means to say that nature abhors a vacuum. And there certainly are people who have abandoned their true humanity, in my opinion. And when you abandon your humanity, which would mean your soul life, then there are entities that could easily come in and fill that vacuum and take over your life. And that certainly must be happening, but I don't really delve into that. I'm sort of concentrating on the environment and how the Earth herself has been subsumed in this vision of the conquest of space. So the second operation, as I said, is chemical and electromagnetic. The third is planetary geophysical, and you mentioned terraforming. That would be where that would come in. And what we're seeing in California as the fires definitely comes under this category. We are seeing combustion experiments going on in these fires now for, I've studied the last 4 years of them, not further. But in those 4 years, I would say that they are experimenting with their nanotechnology. Nanos are very much involved in these fires. And I have a whole chapter on the California fires in the upcoming book. So planetary geophysical, utilizing droughts, fires, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, storms, polar vortices, solar cycles, using it all for experimental purposes to find ways to control not just the Earth, but the sun as well. Then the fourth operation is directed energy weapons. And there are just so many sophisticated weapons now in space. We have the recent invention of this space. What is it called? Space core.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
Oh, what Trump has come up with as the
Space Force. Oh, yeah.
Space Force. Yes. It was called Space Corps before, so I don't always remember. But yeah, the Space Force certainly has to do with the managing the directed energy weapons. It also has to do with managing geoengineering. Then the fifth is the surveillance and neural operations. And surveillance we know about. We know how the satellites are the eyes in the sky, et cetera. The neural part of it, we know less about, but we know that people like Robert Duncan, PhD, he has told us a great deal about how satellites are involved. And I always remember an amazing activist who was targeted to death, I believe, Carolyn Williams Pallett. She taught me probably more than Duncan did about how it works from space. So the idea that our nervous systems and our brain would be controlled by this technology is very, very important, and especially now that all those 5G satellites have gone up. So then the sixth operation, in brief, is and I've put a lot into this one, so I apologize, but digital biology, nanotechnology, and transhumanism, and they're all connected. They lead to each other. Digital biology is what molecular biology is being made into. We're abandoning the molecular model and going for the digital model. And that means that things like the 5G Wuhan operation could very well be, and I certainly can't prove it, but could very well be utilizing the signature of a virus and transporting it via a radio wave or a microwave. You wouldn't even need the virus. You wouldn't even need the actual pathogen. You just need its signature and the ability to transmit it. That's what digital biology is really going to lead us to, and that has to do with the ionized atmosphere as well. The final one is the cloaking and obscuration and detection of exotic propulsion craft that are hiding in the plasma cloud cover that we now have. They also, these cloaked exotic craft can also be plasma life forms. Certainly the military industrial intelligence complex is very much experimenting with creating life forms out of plasma. When you think of what plasma is, that it's the fourth state of matter, and then you start looking at the history of what led up to the discovery of plasma physics in the 30s, you can see that we originally thought that the universe was full of ether. That was the old term. And then bizarrely, to my mind, in the 20s, the 1920s, that term was banned by scientism in the US and UK, and maybe further than that. And then terms like black holes, dark matter, and lots of terms have been created in order to, I guess, take the place of that old term ether. But the way it really seems to me to work, if you study Maxwell and some of the other guys who've been basically left in the dust or hidden from people studying the physics of today, you see that really that was ether was the beginning. It is the 99.9% of the universe. And when there's an electromagnetic event in space, which the electric universe talks a lot about, that will create the plasma from the ether. And then the plasma begins to move toward creating matter. And that's really how creation works on that very simple little model that I'm putting forward. And so these plasma life forms that are the seventh operation and hiding and being obscured in the cloud cover that's being created by these weather events and other things, they're very interesting. I mean, I can't really say that I'm any type of expert on those, but I did really enjoy Trevor Constable's book, The Cosmic Pulse of Life, in which he has a lot of black and white photos of what looked to be like giant microbes in the sky. They're all big blobby looking things that I used to look at under my microscope in college biology, where they have two little eyes and they are very much alive, but their bodies are made of plasma. So that's the seventh operation. As far as the craft go, I'm sure that you've had people who know much more about it than I. I always think of TR3Bs or X37Bs because they're triangular and they are being seen everywhere in the cloud cover above us. So there you see, Carrie, it's a big system, this geoengineering thing. And that's sort of the system by which I decide what is true or not.
Okay, now do you look at Tom Bearden's work and scalar weaponry? Because when you're talking about, what is in essence directed energy weapons, that's scalar, and
Yes.
And that's very important, I believe, having to do with targeting populations for this, for COVID or anything else you want to be mirrored in the population, and I think you're right, the Rife machine talks about, if you've ever looked at, Royal Rife,
Right.
and I've used a Rife machine, then it also can change your whole system depending on how you dial the frequencies and work with that. So that tells us that it's perfectly possible to mind control populations and also create illness in them.
Yes.
And then there's also, there's an interesting thing about botanical sort of frequencies going into healing sort of potions coming from flowers and so on. And all you need is a drop of the essence of the flower, and then, putting into some liquid, and that gets into, rain or the chemtrails or mist or whatever it is, or just outright spray.
And that's your frequency wars right there.
Right.
Absolutely. Frequency is the name of the game now, isn't it?
Yes. And so that's what I have been looking at. But I love that you cover all these different other areas as well. I think this is really important. And I want to sort of delve in further with you, because I am curious, and I know about Trevor James Constable, and I think his work is really, really seminal. And I think that Wilhelm Reich as well is very, very important. They killed him. And everything that we know, I think, today about weather might even come from those two guys, primarily with some help from Tesla. So, and there's a lot there. So, but to get back to the sort of the transhumanist issue and the fact that they're also, about the Georgia Guidestones and the fact that they want to limit the population and all of these programs. So what is your take on what is their current operation? Where are we at with their operation as far as you're concerned? And again, you didn't actually address this, but there's so much. But I wonder if you're looking at the vaccines or the tests and where that is going to take humanity. Like, what are your thoughts on those lines?
Well, because I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner for 40 years or whatever, remember when this all started, we began to hear from doctors like Dietrich Klinghardt and Tom, what's Tom's last name? Tom Cowan in
Yes.
San Francisco, where the first thing they brought up was what Rudolf Steiner was saying about the virus 100 years ago, which is basically that the virus simply does not exist. And it doesn't. What does exist, though, are natural nanoparticles. And natural nanoparticles are in every form of life. This is very different from the man-made ones. And we have to now begin to distinguish between man-made and natural. And when Tom Cowan pointed out that the virus arises when the cell is sick, when the immune system is weak and can't do its job for the cells, then the virus arises. And what happens then, and it looks to me like, because they're using virus and bacteria and DNA to produce synthetics by the truckload. And so imagine that this particular viral strain and it's unfortunate it's coronavirus because there are so many types of coronavirus. I mean, over 100 types. So which one is going on here? And what's the difference? Every flu, you're going to have coronavirus. Every cold, you're going to have coronavirus swimming around inside. So what are they making this out to be? Yes, making it out to be more of the completely ridiculous germ theory. And I say ridiculous because I spent 6 years studying Chinese medicine years ago. I thought I was going to be an acupuncturist, and then life, you know how life is, Carrie, it took me in another direction. The coronavirus is just a nanoparticle that can be synthesized through DNA, using virus or bacteria. And then you have something that you can change. And I think it's the change that we need to look at. I've been studying patents and how patents are made, the fact that a British corporation named Serco actually runs our patent office, which is unbelievable to me. That to patent a form of life, like the germ theory considers bacteria and virus to be, you have to just do something to it to give it a human spin. Then you can patent it. Otherwise, it is still forbidden, thankfully, that you can't patent life. You can't patent it. You have to do something to it. And I think that that's what we're looking at with the present drama, is that possibly someone has done something with the COVID, one of the coronavirus, to produce the COVID-19, such as it's called, a very dangerous acronym, by the way. I don't use it as a synonym for coronavirus at all. The coronavirus has been tampered with, and possibly it was used in these psyops that have happened. I really don't know. I really don't. But I do know that the germ theory is a war model, yet another Western war model that simply does not exist. Germs, I'm sorry to tell people this, they'll probably hate me now, but if I drop a French fry on the ground in a restaurant, I'll just pick it up and eat it, because I know there are no germs. There are no germs. There are microbes, which is yet another word we use for nanoparticles. All these little teeny weeny guys that are living on the atomic level, really tiny. I mean, beyond micron, right? Way. They are so fascinating. I have gotten so deep into this now. The thing that really strikes me is that all these nano particles, whether they're natural and they're in bodies and they're in the environment, or they're man-made, because they're on the atomic level, they are right by the quantum threshold. So they are not really from this realm. Do you see what I mean? They're from some parallel realm, which is what makes them actually quite dangerous and probably very attractive to materials physicists who want to get down in there and create matter just like God, right? So that now is, when I think of, you're asking about the vaccine, if I were to guess, educated guess, not the same thing as, somebody in the street, educated guess, that vaccine is going to have a DNA synthesized nanoparticle that is going to influence our DNA. And that is to me, I mean, when you first heard about transhumanism years ago, you and I both know that they're not going to have big lines of people waiting to go into a hospital and get a vaccination to make them transhumanist. That ain't going to be how it happens. It's going to come like a thief in the night, and it's going to come as a medicine, right? It's going to come that way. So when Steiner said, no, there is no virus, the other thing he said that was outrageous was that someday there would be a vaccine, let's say that, a vaccine that would completely wipe the idea of spirit and soul from human consciousness. Now that is the direction I think this is going in, because these are the globalists, the same globalists we dealt with in 1918 when the war ended and 1919 came and the League of Nations failed because humanity was not ready for it. They have been working for 100 years to get us ready. And they fortunately had the TV that completely turned us into boob tube kind of people. They had all that, they brought education down to the lowest common denominator of absolute no thinking whatsoever, just fill in the blank. They have worked so hard to get to the point where now we're back to the secret space program. Absolute control over humanity has to be part of controlling the planet. And that's where we are now. That's how I see it, Carrie.
Sure. And I certainly agree with that. But what I'm wondering, though, in terms of that control and in terms, I don't know if you know who Sterling Hill is, but she's someone I interviewed recently. She looks at what she calls epigenetics, and she's also tracking, along with other people, by the way, this gene. I don't know if they call it gene 8 or something like that. They're calling it like the God gene or something, and they think that the vaccine will target specifically this gene. I'm actually thinking, because I named my book Rebel Gene, in essence, it may be the exact same gene as the rebel gene. In other words, the God gene and the rebel gene are, it's a concept. It's more of a philosophy, if you will, having to do with having the human think for themselves and be able to be spiritual and to make that connection with source. So what they're trying to do is interfere with that connection. And by the way, their geoengineering of the sun also speaks to that very directly, because the sun is it affects our minds and raises our frequency, and so it is through that we also connect with source. And they've been doing the chemtrailing, covering the skies with this thick cloud layer. Now, there's more than one reason for the chemtrails, so it gets quite wide there, and I think you would agree. But I agree, with your analysis, generally speaking, although there's we may diverge at a certain point. Are you aware, for example, you're talking a lot about what you're calling natural nano. I haven't heard anyone refer to nano as natural. My understanding of nano is that it was all unnatural. But if you can explain what you understand about nano that has to do with what you're calling, is it just because you're using the word nano to mean small? meaning subatomic level, or are you
Right.
saying what it's made of? Because normally I thought nano, and again, I'm not an expert on nano by any stretch, but I also thought nano had to be a certain kind of metal. It was a metallic sort of substance that could also, well, contain AI and self-replicate is what I've got from whistleblowers. So, and that has to do with the nano satellites grid. You know, Anthony Sanchez talked about all around us. That's called Project Leonid, that you may or may not have heard of.
Mhm.
So, can you talk more about nano, your understanding of what it is and what it isn't?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to say that the epigenetics is very, very important because basically that's, in a way, that's what my whole book is about, how the environment now is the means by which all of this is going to be done. It's all being done through the environment. And that's amazing. I mean, you have to agree that the the National Security Act of 1947 cannot be underestimated as to be the rock that all of these scientists and purveyors of non-human experiments, they all crawled under that same rock, and so now, well, you know, we're facing the consequences. Now, regarding the nanotechnology, yes. Nano, when I use it, I'm actually referring to the size, but I'm trying to also say that the size is very important because it is on the threshold that the nanos, the picos, all of the others that are very tiny, they're all on the threshold of the quantum worlds, quantum dimensions, you might say, the quantum frequencies, yes? So to have released a lot of man-made thinking that, oh, there's already natural nano in the sense of they're all just of the elements from the periodic table. Yes, there are metals, but it's all from the periodic table, and maybe with a few new ones coming in. But it's mainly a size thing because like smart dust, like any of the what's the one that from space they call it, not space dust, they have another name for it, but all of that is nano. It's nano sized, that's all. And it was here a long time before, but now they're edging in the man-made nano. There's no laws that at all regulate it, Carrie. There is not one law that regulates nano. It has been released in the trillions and quadrillions, and I mean, I can't even begin to quantify how these rockets, these sounding rockets, and the jets that are up at 42,000 feet, and you know, they've all spewed this stuff everywhere because they wanted, as soon as they discovered they could arm them to be nanobots in the sense that they could put tiny computers in them, they realized that these would be their sensors. And these sensors would go out and grab data to feed the machine learning AI the big data that it has to munch on all the time. So they saw it at first as a sensor item, but then it was so easy to use it in other things that they pretty soon have just put it everywhere. And the question that burns in my soul about this is, what happens when you invite such a tiny, I can just picture these scientists say, oh, it's so tiny. It would have no effect. So tiny. Well, what if it's just the opposite? What if this has a tremendous effect? In fact, particularly because it is armed with microcomputers. Mm-hmm. And then now the boys, the laptop boys, I call them, the guys sitting in Colorado Springs with a nice fresh glass of organic orange juice on their monitor, watching how all of these dumps happen in the upper atmosphere and how much is coming down and what the sensors are saying. And, you know, they're reading the atmosphere, they're reading all kinds of things. The nanos are going this way. And so the data boys love this stuff because it magnifies the big data amazingly. But what's going to happen to us? We are not accustomed to these, and they are being tampered with. These are not the natural nano-sized periodic table things, the natural metals. We have a little bit of aluminum in us. We have a little bit of barium. We have a little bit of all these different, but now it's coming down in dumps, and we are breathing it in, and it is immediately, because of its size, able to storm the barricade between the blood and the brain. And it's in our brains, and you look around. I don't know where you live if it's like this, but where I live, people are they're just not thinking. They're just emotional triggers waiting to be triggered. They are not aware. They are not conscious. When Rudolf Steiner used the word consciousness, no, this is not consciousness. This is something else. And I very much feel that the nanotech is a huge part of this, and that we're going to pay the piper on this.
Well, I think that's, that's fascinating. And thank you for sort of clarifying what your thoughts were along those lines. I am wondering, because when you talk about nano and you talk about 5G, in a certain sense, you're talking about a highway, Internet of Things, a highway by which not only the nano can travel, but AI can travel,
right,
piggybacked on this highway of nano. And so we have within us now tons of nano from the chemtrails. That's already there. And then on top of it, it does appear that the hydrogel is what they're calling it, that they're using actually, I think it's also in the test, in the swab things they're doing. And then on top of it, it's in the vaccines. So the hydrogel contains nano. I mean, they actually come out and say that. So
absolutely.
So there you are. And one of my whistleblowers who was talking to me about the coming vaccine, said, well, it's going to have, they call it smart dust. And the smart dust is the nano, but it's the nano linked with AI. It's the AI nano. So it is fascinating. Now, you could go, I don't know if you want to go in this direction or have you thought about this, but my book actually is concerned with this question having to do with how much sort of AI and nano and transhumanist stuff can it's like the idea of the universal soldier. And there's there's a movie that's very front and center about this, and you may remember it, but it has to do with when you build somebody's body into this stuff. So they're transmuting us into this. At what point does the spirit soul complex start having trouble with the sort of biofeedback system to where we can't, like I said, also connect with source, but aside from that, our own, with our own sort of feedback system. So then what happens to a person's karma is kind of like the wrong word, but if you understand what I'm saying, what is the feedback loop of doing something wrong, for example? Does it have a feedback loop for that? Does it, what I mean? I'm talking about where we in like a sort of so-called human now has, we think, a conscience, has a feeling nature, emotional nature, watery nature that feels bad when we do something bad. It's like a natural reaction. Feels sick when we see something sick. You know what I'm saying here? So this is a lot to think about. And I don't even know if your book goes in that direction, but it's something that has to be discussed at some point in the future, because that's what we're really talking about. Are we going to lose our humanity through these methods? And is that, of course, the plan? So, this is where it goes.
Right. No, it's a great question. And I would say not in the future. This should have happened yesterday before all this was released. But of course, not, because the American way is of doing research is to release it and see what happens and then deal with it from there. So no, it's a great question, and it's a Rudolf Steiner type of question, along with many other people who are asking the same thing. I go back to my idea, which may sound bizarre, to take a physics law and apply it to one's humanity, but nature abhors a vacuum. This has been said since back with Newton. And the reason that's so important is we have to ask, with this technology, even though we can't see something, like, you breathe in we know that we breathe in oxygen, and we breathe in, well, other things too, but we really need the oxygen. And so we can't see it, but we're breathing all the time. We're just breathing. We take it for granted. What if in the invisible world, or the tiny world that we can't see, because if you remember looking at an electromagnetic spectrum, and then you see this vast spectrum, and all the way from gamma rays to radio waves and microwaves, and yet then you get down to this little tiny area that is our visual area, where the human being can actually see and experience. It's overwhelming. I mean, it's, and that is, of course, what the doctrine of full spectrum dominance mean. Full spectrum, yes, it means all of every aspect of life, but it also means complete domination over the electromagnetic spectrum, including ours. So we're stuck with this little tiny wedge that we can see, and we know it's there. And then we've learned from our culture that, yes, we breathe in oxygen, even though you can't see it. We could measure it if we had to. And you begin to see that now so many things, I'm looking at my electric light, I know I'm looking at my computer, there's radio waves coming out of it, there's microwaves. I have a wonderful pyramid over here, which is made of organite that a wonderful fan of mine made for me. So, and I know rays are pouring out of it. I can't see them. So I'm learning something that Rudolf Steiner said that we all would have to learn someday, which is to perceive without seeing it, to perceive it spiritually, you might say, or through the soul. You would teach the soul how to perceive something that is invisible, and you would know it was present. And we're not talking about ghosts here. We're not talking about, the normal TV fare. We're talking about being able to use our minds in such a way that we can concentrate in this way. We can open the portals in another way. The mind is not the brain. It is part of the soul, if not the soul itself. And so if I were to try to answer your very good question, it would be, what is it that will take me so far afield from my soul life? What will come in if I'm leaving a vacuum? Say I have no inner life. I don't think meditation and prayer are the only ways to have an inner life, but where I actually have a relationship with the divine. And that relationship is real, and it informs me constantly, my thoughts, my feelings, how I conduct my life. I don't go to churches. I don't go to temples. I don't necessarily, as I always say, every day is Sunday and everywhere is church. But I have an inner life, and that inner life fills all my interstices of my soul life, of my physical life, as I'm directing it through my soul to live here on earth for my lifetime. So somebody who doesn't have that, what kind of vacuum are they setting up? And that's the key to me. If you're watching TV with your spare time because you're just burned out, it's been a tough day at work, and you just want to collapse on the couch and watch some crap. Is that what you should be doing when we are obviously under some sort of anti-human warfare, I call it. I could call it spiritual warfare. That's used a lot, and it's the same thing. But it definitely is anti-human as the human has been. It's that we were weak, we were frail. This transhumanism can make us stronger, like the super soldier program. It can make us, it can enhance us. And meanwhile, you know, what about the things that make us human, where our fragility, our sensitivity, our ability to love, our ability to really go deeply into our feelings? Are these really weaknesses? I don't think so. I think that we need to really, you know, like you said, it's a conversation we should have been having. We should have been having it a long time ago. If these AIs and these nanos and everything else, all the chemicals in the you know, that are coming down and we're breathing, obviously the scientists of our era do not care a damn about what is human. They are too concentrated on doing something with their careers, with the science that for them is like a god, and so we're left on our own here. This is up to us now. And that, in a way, is an invitation to true democratic movement. And that's really what I feel I've thrown my life into for 10 years now, is the wonderful democratic movement where, you know, I'm reading what people are doing for their Morgellons, which is a form of nanotechnology. I'm reading how they're combating it and taking back their quality of life through just their own experimentation. They're all scientists. They're all looking deeply into what is happening to me, because ain't no experts coming to save me. Ain't no governor who's going to give me a law that's going to take care of me. We're on our own. And that's, to me, the strength of our position. It's just that we have to take it seriously, because a lot of people are getting depressed and killing themselves. They're not getting that this is an opportunity to look into the invisible and learn through one's mind, as long as you can keep it. Because, you know, I know tons of, you probably do too, Carrie, I know tons of targeted individuals who cannot even claim to have their own mind anymore. I mean, we are in the portals of evil, to an anti-human evil that is using human beings like toilet paper, like that initial mind control moment when everybody ran out and bought all the toilet paper. That was totally programmed into the population. Don't people get how sophisticated this technology is? They think we are worms. They think we're cattle. They think doing anything to us is fine if you don't wake up. And that's where the brotherhoods come in, the secret societies that Kennedy was speaking against. The secret society idea is, hey, I get to do anything I want to you. If you don't wake up, well, you're just a Cowan. You're just dumb. So you deserve whatever you get. That's how they do their secret societies. Well, I don't feel that way. I feel there are young souls on the planet. There are older souls. There are very old souls. And that we who are older need to take under our wing the people who are just completely like, what the heck? What the heck? I feel very strongly that we need to take our morality, not born of a church or, you know, even in Buddha's wonderful laws, that we need to take our moral sensibility and be ready to operate with it at any moment in the day, anywhere we are, with whomever we are. I mean, that to me is true spirituality. And I have to do whatever I need to do to prepare myself, strengthen myself, that I will be ready when that opportunity calls me to act. And that's an inner life. That's an inner life that I highly recommend to people across the board, whether some of us believe that aliens are coming or that we're going to be this or that. It doesn't matter. What matters is, for me, the human scale. And I love, love, love the human scale. And I want to protect the lifetimes of those who are going to incarnate in this coming world. I want to do everything I can to ameliorate some of the flaws going on now that, Rudolf Steiner certainly talked a lot about. He said that the main job of a Steiner person in the 21st century would be to encounter evil and name it for what it is. Because by naming it for what it is, you take its power. And that's really the story of that's what I'm doing, to the best of my ability.
Right, and I think we're on the same page with that, and certainly when we are able to talk about everything, as we are doing here, we're naming it. This is very front and center with what you're talking about. I do want to say that it is interesting. See, I come to a little different conclusion. I don't know if you go in this direction, but in my book, I also talk about, okay, so we're getting bombarded by all of this. They're changing. See, it's not like, people think when they get shot up with the vaccine, some people out there, that's the beginning of transhumanism. On a certain level, it's already happened. This vaccine might contain some kind of, blockages if you allow it to do certain things to your body. If you're weak, especially if you're weak physically, they're going to be able to do things. But my view of this is not only do we have things that can heal us, natural things, and things like whether it be colloidal silver or MMS, for those of you that are familiar with that, and there's other versions of that. Whatever, there's a lot of solutions out there that are natural that can actually wash some of this stuff right out of your system. So even if you do get a vaccine or you get, tested, then of course you're advised to do that sort of thing. But I think, you see, who is master of my body ultimately? It comes down to sovereignty. So the human sovereignty of this mind-body complex that is actually emotional, my emotional body, which is uniquely human, okay? That coupled with our minds. And whenever you get into nano and AI and you get into a futuristic kind of looking transhuman society like that, and you get into androids and synths and so on, what you're really talking about is they lack the one thing, which is our emotional body. And our emotional body and our spirituality are very well linked because it's all about the heart, right? The heart chakra and then the higher chakras. So what we're really talking about is, do we have the ability to protect ourselves on that level? And I would say we do. But I would say that when you've gone through degradation after degradation. So we have bad food, bad water, bad lighting, the whole, 5G, if it really gets rolled out and so on, then we're really talking about radiation. Okay. So a certain kind of radiation that makes us sick, makes the human body react with a COVID-like sickness, meaning our cells puff up, they get this corona around them and so on. And Robert O. Young is a doctor that talks about this, and he is totally agrees with there's no, the germ theory is totally outdated. There's no viruses in reality. And I've also talked to Judy Mikovits. She's beginning to come on board with some of these ideas and has done her own incredible, work in revealing what are man-made poisons that they are working on dispersing among us and so on. So what I'm saying here is that we have something to protect. It is our sovereignty, but it's actually in every, it's kind of like, John Lennon said back in the day, the one thing you can't hide is when you're crippled inside. So bottom line is you need to heal yourself. And that is, you are the master of your own body. And it doesn't matter what they do. They can cut off limbs. They can try to shoot you up with everything under the sun. But your spirit soul complex, where I say to people, where are you? Where are you? You are not your body. Your body is a manifestation. It's how we connect with this 3D, 4D reality. But in reality, we go on. You know, if you agree with that idea that we have a soul that is eternal, that means it's not sometimes eternal and sometimes not. It is always eternal. Therefore, they can't destroy us. Yes, they can destroy our body. But at what point do we keep hold of our body? Do we claim our sovereignty? And do we make an issue of this sovereignty? And of course, drawing the line with the vaccines and the tests, of course, and the masks, you know, allowing us to breathe in our own world, actually depleting the oxygen. Even before the masks, they were also taking oxygen out of the atmosphere. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, I think 16%.
Right. So, and this is crucial because these are the things that make us live. Sunlight makes us live. Oxygen keeps this body complex going, keeps our interaction. You know, in a sense, your body is like your glove into this, you know, reality, if you want to call it that. It's just a way of thinking about it. So, you know, I would wonder, I guess you haven't finished your book, but I am wondering where you're going with your book, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And I don't intend to keep you much longer, but I think that if you can talk about that, and if you want, we can take some questions from the chat after that.
Okay. Well, regarding the book, yeah, I only have 5 more chapters to write. Where I have gone is to build a picture of how the environment has been weaponized, all the way down to the hospital. And I think that I have to say that I have not been to a Western medical doctor since I was 13. I learned early that they are not trustworthy. And so I studied Chinese medicine, as I said, and I used Chinese medicine while I was raising my children, and I did not vaccinate. I was a Waldorf teacher for years, helped start 4 Waldorf schools in Washington State so that children could have a childhood free of TV and computers in the classroom. And I was able to see that you can heal children of even their physical ailments in the classroom through a therapeutic education like the Steiner education. It's just, Carrie, it's just absolutely brilliant.
Sure.
So that, and it also healed me to be teaching such a therapeutic education. My childhood was very difficult, and I had a lot of things to heal. And by being a Waldorf teacher for years, 16 years, I was able to heal a lot of my own childhood. Very grateful. So and that's certainly part of the soul life that you were just talking about. If you're damaged in childhood, as I was, you tend to, you can't fulfill why you came. You have to at least address what happened. And if you don't remember some things that happened, you have to try your best to remember, so that to remember that part of you that you've tucked away because it's just too awful. It's just too hard to remember. And that all that work, once that work was done, I was 45 years old. I mean, it took me that long to heal the child that had been, was so creative and such a wonderful little girl. And then I was able to pick up why I really came to the earth, why I came to do my work, and I'm doing my work right now. And that's kind of how I write. And I think that's an important part. I mean, you're a writer too, so you can appreciate that how you write. And this, my books are just full of footnotes and stuff. I mean, it's very conceptual. People have trouble reading them. I realize that because TV has just weakened us so much. We've been in alpha wave for years. You need beta wave at the very minimal in order to read concepts and to understand how technology is sophisticated as HARP and other things work. So that's my challenge. I'm writing for the layman who has been damaged and can't really grasp things easily through reading. I'm writing in an era where nobody reads. And as I say to people, I write these books for people 50 years down the road who are going to wonder, why wasn't anyone writing about this? I am the only person other than my friend Peter Kirby, who came out with you interviewed him. Peter did a wonderful book on how the whole chemtrail thing is Manhattan Project 2. And, thank goodness for him. But I'm stretching into the future in this book of looking at what is obviously the direction we're going in. And I would say that the most unusual part of the book, after I set up the environment, then I'm going into all the different synthetic biologies. There's more than one. There's several, and looking at how that works and keeping it simple, keeping it brief, and because there's a lot to it. But then my last fourth part of the book is really fantastic, and this is about keeping our humanity. And what can we do to keep our humanity? What is essential? Just the bare bones of what we need to keep it. And that will entail some esoterics. I'm going to be more esoteric in this book than I was the previous two, because this is the last, you better remind me if I ever forget this. This is the last book I'm writing on geoengineering. I have given the world my best on what it really is and how it's really being used. But I don't want to continue doing that. It's being normalized now in a teeny weeny fraction of what it really is picture, which is, of course, how we do disinformation in America. But everything's there if you want to take the journey through the book and get to that wonderful, city of gold at the end, where we can fight for this humanity. And that's what we have to do. I am a fighter. I am a warrior beyond belief. And I love this fight because I'm on the right side. And probably anyone who tries to read this book, which is looking a bit long, will have to be on the right side as well to do all that work. So that's what I'm doing, Carrie.
Excellent. Well, that's fabulous to hear, and so glad to have you sort of in the fight with all of us. So just in terms of questions from the chat, I don't know if we have any burning questions, but you're going to have to put it in all caps and put a question mark at the end. Otherwise, I will not be able to see it. But if there's any burning questions, please retype them because the chat we've had quite an active chat room and the chat has rolled by very quickly. So if you've got half a minute to put in your question there, and I'll just ask for the last kind of wrap up comments here, Elana. Is there anything that you would like to say about I know you've written some other books, some books we might not have mentioned. Is there anything there that you would like to draw people's attention to? And in the meanwhile, we'll wait to see if there's any questions crop up.
Well, thank you, Carrie, for reminding me of my orphan child, the Sub Rosa America series. That is a series that I cut my teeth on for 20 years. in order to honor John F. Kennedy, who I had tea with in the Rose Garden when I was 16.
Wow.
And it was a huge experience because I personally felt like I had known him before, and I didn't even have a concept of reincarnation at that time. Bill Clinton was in the Rose Garden too. I didn't know him, but he referred to it many times, and we were both there the same summer. Gave a talk on my time with Kennedy when I got back to my home state from Girls Nation, and then 3 months later he was dead. And I had to go back to those civic groups and talk in rooms filled with sobbing Americans. It was probably the very beginning of my political life, such as it is. So the Sub Rosa America series is about the America since Kennedy's assassination, but it's done through fiction. I have a fictional format so that I can comment on America, and so I can defend the 60s generation that Newsweek magazine and Time have consistently tried to make it sound like it was just about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, when really it was about a spiritual quest and long, detailed, deep conversations about everything under the sun. So I presented the 60s I knew in these books, along with amazing amounts of history. If I were to put these books on a shelf, I would put them right next to some of the books that have come out that have tried to tell the truth about American history, because that's where they belong. So I highly recommend the Sub Rosa America series. And thanks for asking me to give it a little nudge, because I've never sold those books. I've never presented on them because I got involved in the chemtrails movement about the time I was finishing them. And I just got caught up in a very serious thing. So I'm now starting to press them forward so the public knows they exist.
Excellent. Okay. Nice to hear about that. And so I'm going to grab one or two of the questions. There are a few cropping up here. One person wants to know what your thoughts are about the next 3 months. Do you have any specific thoughts about that?
Well, I really think we're in a civil war, and that it's being conducted relatively obliquely, maybe like the revolution in military affairs in the 90s, which abandoned traditional warfare and became what's called asymmetric warfare. Maybe that's what this should be looked at as, is we're involved in an asymmetric war. And rather than claim where I stand in it, I would say that the next few months, I mean, we'll never be the same. We're not going back. Things don't move back, they move forward. The next few months around the election, be prepared for anything would be what I would say.
Right. I think that's true. I know they're talking about an October surprise. I'm not sure. That could be anybody's guess. I don't know if you're of the opinion that John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive, but certainly if he is, I believe he's alive. I've had some backup on that. And I can say that if he were to come forward, that would be quite an October surprise. I'm hoping it's that rather than some other things that they've got in the pipeline. But
well, one of the things I have thought of is a geoengineered event. Yes, I would see that the wrong finger is on the geoengineering button, and that finger has, I would say, has 3 letters and starts with a C and ends with an A. So I can't really. That's why I say be prepared for anything, because it could very well be a weather event, like the fires have been. The fires are going on. They're still going on up here. I can't believe it.
And because they could make it rain any day of the week that they wish, they could end them,
right,
in a second. They always have that ability.
Right.
I live in an area where I'm convinced that they are protecting actually this. I live in the general area where Ben Rich was, they dedicated the highway to him. and so on. So, skunk works and all of that. So it's a real haven for the secret space program, especially, I'm sure, underground. But
Right.
nonetheless, so this is the kind of thing we're talking about. I agree, with the cabal being somewhat pushed up against the wall, I think they are looking to do things, crazy things. And I do think it's very possible that we are going to have some kind of event. I don't think they like the direction things are going, and I think they do want to interfere with the election. Now, there's also some talk about an asteroid coming, and there are a number of asteroids that are sort of lined up to be coming this way from now until the election. I don't know if you've thought about that or if you have any thoughts on that.
I have the opinion that it's more NASA nothing.
Okay. Now, someone wants to know, what do you think about structured water taken internally for correcting frequencies?
Oh, wow. I'm very ignorant of it. I have heard of it, but I haven't studied it. It sounds very interesting. Anything to do with frequency sounds very interesting to me.
Okay, well, I can say that I have on my website a company called Divinia Water. I use their water, and there are ads on my website for the water. I've interviewed the scientist. He's a former Black Project scientist, and he's got a mom and pop operation him and his daughter run. And I've interviewed them like 4 or 5 times, fascinating interviews. So if you look for Divinia Water on my front page, you'll find structured water, and that goes into water. I think they call it H3O2 or something like that. Anyway, so that's worth looking into. All right, I guess that's about it. I don't know if there's anything else here that maybe I missed. Okay, someone's asking about seawater. People have water on the brain today, so to speak. So someone's asking about seawater. Do you think that's therapeutic?
You mean
like a no-brainer? But
do you mean the desalinization of seawater? Is that what the context, or it means?
I think they're saying going into the ocean, literally.
So I think it's great, and I know there are pollutants in the ocean, but I think it's wonderful. I used to live in Hawaii for 4 years when I was going to college, and gosh, I really miss that. I miss swimming in the salt water. I love salt water.
Yeah. The negative ions at the beach, fabulous. And of course, when one of their control mechanisms was to shut down the beaches, to shut down allowing people into the ocean, which was a complete idiocy, and also allowing them to go into nature. I mean, I think it's Melbourne. They're forcing people to stay in their houses like 24 hours a day or something. That's beyond a Nazi concentration camp kind of attitude. All of this is geared at weakening the immune system so that people, because look, if they don't have enough sick, so to speak, then their tests and their vaccines go by the wayside. So they've got to maintain that sick amount of the population. So they've got to keep these things up to make you sick, which is where the masks come in as well. Okay, well, I've already made this, so they probably won't allow this on YouTube without giving me a strike. So I'm going to have to figure that one out. I'll put it on BitChute if you see it disappear. Any parting words, Elana?
Oh, I wish I had something wise to say. I think everyone who came to the earth, who's here now, no matter how humble or great, has something that they came to do in a hard time. And I completely encourage people to do whatever it takes in order to fulfill why you came.
Very nice. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. I'm sure that we've just grazed the tip of the iceberg with your information. You've got a great amount of information for people and knowledge, and I think that hopefully you'll get some book sales out of this. I can't wait for your new book to come out. So let's talk about your new book once it's out, if you are willing to come back on the show.
Okay, thanks so much, Carrie.
Thank you. All right. You take care.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So thank you. So thank you for watching today and for being there. And we are, let's see, I've kind of lost track of time. This evening, we're going to have a fascinating guest. He believes he is a contactee from the Lyrans, and so that should be a really interesting show. It's on projectcamelot.tv if you want to look at the banner and be able to find the show. Today, we will not be using Zoom. We'll use YouTube and Skype again to broadcast, so it will be a little simpler process for me anyway. But his name is Alexander Tulloch, and I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but at any rate, the information is on my website. That's 7 p.m. tonight. And then tomorrow, I have an interview with Carrie Cohan, and she is an experiencer contactee who wants to share some messages she's been getting as well. So that's tomorrow at 1 p.m. So I'll put that on the website shortly so that people can sort of see where it is and everything. So as you may know, I'm using my alternative YouTube channel to broadcast. Please do consider subscribing. We're having to take things off of YouTube to preserve them because of censorship, etc. And so that process means that things will move into BitChute and other platforms as we go. We're investigating those. And I want to say thank you for being there and for, supporting my channel all these days and years, and hopefully we'll make it through. I don't know what's going to happen to this particular interview because we did talk about some trigger topics, and at this point I'm sort of sick of trying to second guess what YouTube is going to try to delete and give me a strike for and what they're not. It's there's a lot of things in here where they could have issues. So take care. I'll be back later tonight, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.